You know that feeling, right? Like you're constantly fighting battles you just can't seem to win? Pushing against this tide of circumstances that just resists your every effort. Man, it's an exhausting way to live. But what if? What if there's a different approach? An ancient philosophy that's not some set of abstract, dusty rules, but a practical operating system for the modern mind. What if the secret to inner peace isn't controlling the world, but understanding what was never yours to control? Just let that sink in for a second. This question, it gets right to the very heart of our modern struggle with anxiety, with that feeling of being completely overwhelmed. It suggests that maybe, just maybe, our fundamental strategy for happiness is, well, it's flawed. Okay, so let's dive into this. We're going to explore an ancient framework that offers a pretty radical shift in perspective. So where does all this frustration even begin? Well, it starts with a simple, almost universal miscalculation about what we can and cannot influence in our lives. I mean, really think about it. We all have a finite amount of time and energy. That's our budget for the day. And yet, how often do we spend it trying to force a certain career outcome, or change someone's opinion of us online, or prevent some unfortunate event from happening? The Stoics argue that focusing on things where we have little to no real agency is a direct path to misery. We are literally trading our most precious resources for things we can't truly control. And this is exactly where Stoicism comes in. But I need you to forget the modern caricature of a Stoic, that emotionless, stiff upper lip person. The original philosophy is something so much more dynamic and useful. Think of it as a rational, practical guide for navigating the world we actually live in. At its core, Stoicism asks a very simple question. What kind of organism is a human being? And the Stoic answer is pretty clear. We're social animals, and we're capable of reason. So it just follows that a good life, a flourishing life, is one where we use that reason to solve our problems and to interact cooperatively with others. This is the whole idea behind what the Greeks called eudaimonia. And this whole operating system is built upon one single, crucial, life-altering insight. The ancient Stoic teacher Epictetus laid it out most clearly, and it's known as the dichotomy of control. Seriously, this one principle is the key that unlocks the entire philosophy. So the whole game is learning to distinguish between what is up to us and what is not up to us. And when you look at it, the list of what's truly up to us is pretty short, isn't it? Our judgments, our intentions, our actions. That's about it. And what's not up to us? Well, pretty much everything else. The final outcome, what other people think of us, our reputation, even our health to a large extent. So the Stoic strategy is to pour all of our energy into what we can control and to cultivate a calm, rational acceptance of what we cannot. This is the practical mantra. Focus on intention, release the outcome. You can prepare meticulously for a presentation. You can be a kind and loving partner. You can work hard on your health. But that final outcome is never fully guaranteed. So you shift your focus. You invest your energy and your self-worth in your intentions and your actions. Releasing your attachment to the outcome, well, that's where you find both effectiveness and peace. Now, this might sound good in theory, but how does it work in the heat of the moment? Well, Stoicism isn't just a theory, it's a practice. It comes with specific techniques we can actually apply every day. Let's take a really common, emotionally charged situation. Someone insults you, either online or right to your face. The typical reaction is that rush of adrenaline, anger, and that desire to retaliate. So, what would a Stoic do? They would pause and apply reason. First, you have to recognize that the insult itself is just words, vibrations in the air. It's our interpretation of those words that gives them power. Then you analyze it logically. Is what the person said true? If so, even if they said it rudely, they've actually given you valuable feedback you can use to improve. You could even be grateful. And if what they said is false, well, then that is their error in judgment, not yours. Why should their mistake disturb your peace? Either way, you choose not to be harmed, and so you are not. And this brings us to a crucial point about emotions. Stoicism is not about ignoring anger or fear. That's not the goal. Think of your emotions as signals. They're like alarm bells telling you that something needs your attention. But here's the key. They are signals, not commanders. A Stoic uses reason to assess that signal and then decide on a rational course of action, rather than letting that initial emotional flash dictate their behavior. The key to handling these tough situations well in the moment is to prepare for them beforehand. Just like an athlete trains their body, A Stoic trains their mind, and one of the most powerful tools for this is a practice called philosophical journaling. At the end of the day, you just take a few moments to reflect. And the point here is not to relive events emotionally or beat yourself up, but to learn from them. You ask, what did I do wrong? What did I do right? And what could I do differently next time? The goal isn't self-criticism, it's ethical improvement. By preparing your mind today, you'll be ready for whatever tomorrow brings. As Seneca said, a prepared mind handles difficulties better. Practices like journaling really reveal the true nature of Stoicism, which is so often misunderstood today. And as the philosophy sees this big resurgence, it's collecting some common myths. So let's just clear a few of those up right now. The biggest myth by far is that Stoicism means suppressing your emotions to become a robot. As we've seen, it's the total opposite. It's not about suppression, it's about regulation. It's the process of using your reason to modulate and understand your emotional responses so you can act wisely instead of just being a puppet to your passions. Another huge misconception is that accepting what you can't control means you become a passive doormat. This is completely contradicted by history. There was a group of Roman senators known as the Stoic opposition, who consistently spoke truth to tyrannical emperors, risking, and in some cases, losing their lives. Stoicism actually demands ethical action and engagement with society. And this brilliantly illustrates the ultimate Stoic value. Things like wealth, health, and reputation are what the Stoics called preferred indifference. They're nice to have, sure, but they are morally neutral. They don't make you a good or bad person. The only thing that truly defines you, the only thing you truly possess, is your character. The goal of a Stoic life is to make that character as virtuous as possible. So why does this 2,300-year-old philosophy feel so incredibly relevant today? It's because its core insights are being validated by our most advanced modern science. The founders of cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, were directly inspired by reading the Stoics. They realized that it's not events that disturb us, but our judgments about them. In fact, CBT's core practice of identifying and challenging automatic negative thoughts is a direct therapeutic application of the Stoic discipline of examining our impressions before we agree to them. And this connection isn't new. Stoicism has been a living, evolving tradition for millennia. From its birth in ancient Athens, to its practice by a Roman emperor, to its direct influence on modern psychology, it has proven itself to be an incredibly durable framework for living a good life, especially when times get turbulent. And that, ultimately, is the takeaway. Stoicism offers us a compass. It doesn't promise to calm the storms of life, but it does give us a way to steer our ship with intention, reason, and integrity. And if we update this ancient wisdom with modern science, we discover that Stoicism isn't old, it's timeless.